A bright, sunny afternoon, a cool glass of champagne, the bubbles tickling your nose as you toast to a future that seems limitless. And then, a bank statement showing more money than you ever imagined. The numbers are so high you have to double-check to make sure it's real. It was real. I, an average guy, had won the lottery. The kind of thing you only hear about in stories or see in movies, but it happened to me. Fast forward 5 years and things looked very different. No more champagne. The celebrations had long ended and the reality of my situation had set in. The good times were over. The carefree days of spending without a second thought had vanished. Now I was surrounded by bills and a sense of dread that never seemed to go away. Instead of happiness, there was a big knot of worry in my stomach as I stared at another scary bank statement. The numbers were no longer in my favor. This time, it wasn't good news. The statement screamed at me with its red, negative numbers, a stark contrast to the joy I once felt. This time it screamed, "You're broke!" The dream had turned into a nightmare and I was living it every single day. Winning the lottery felt like a dream come true, a ticket to an easy life. I thought all my problems were solved, that I could finally relax and enjoy life without worries. But I had no idea I was headed for a big crash. My story isn't special. It's a cautionary tale that many lottery winners share. Lots of lottery winners end up broke. The statistics are shocking, but they are real. The sudden influx of money can be more of a curse than a blessing. I'm here to tell you why, and more importantly, how you can avoid the same thing. It's not just about the money, it's about understanding how to manage it. With the right guidance and a solid plan, you can turn a windfall into a lasting fortune. It's about making smart choices and not letting the money control you. Money on its own isn't bad. It's a tool, something useful. Like any tool, it can be used to build things or break things. It all comes down to one thing: understanding money. Sadly, schools don't always teach us about money. We learn math and history, but not how to make a budget, invest, or save for the future. Not knowing these things can be dangerous, especially if you suddenly get a lot of money. Without understanding money, we make bad choices. We try to get rich quick, spend too much, and think the money will never run out. Trust me, it will. Understanding money means you're in charge of your money, not the other way around. After I got over the shock of winning, I started spending. A big fancy house, lots of expensive cars, designer clothes, I bought it all. My friends and family, who were careful at first, joined in the fun. Everyone wanted something, and I, blinded by all the money, was happy to give. Looking back, it was a sure way to fail. I was living like a king without the money to pay for it, and I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. The worst part, I didn't even enjoy most of it. The fancy things made me happy for a little while, but not really. The more I spent, the emptier I felt. It was just like they say, more money, more problems. The day the party ended was awful. It felt like the end of an era, a sudden and harsh transition from joy to despair. The laughter and music that once filled the room were replaced by an eerie silence. The decorations that once symbolized celebration now seemed like remnants of a forgotten dream. My financial advisor, if you can even call him that, disappeared with a lot of my money. He was someone I trusted, someone who promised to secure my future, but in the end, he was just another con artist, leaving me to pick up the pieces of my shattered finances. Bad investments and crazy spending took care of the rest. I was reckless, thinking the good times would never end. I threw money at every opportunity, every whim, without a second thought. The stock market crash was just the final nail in the coffin. I was back where I started, but now I felt ashamed and full of regret. I looked at old photographs, remembering the dreams and ambitions I once had. The person in those pictures seemed like a stranger to me now, someone who had lost their way. It was a dark time. Nights were the worst, filled with endless thoughts and what-ifs. I wandered through empty streets, feeling like a ghost in my own life. The darkness outside mirrored the emptiness I felt within. The friends who were always around disappeared, and my family, who I had helped so much, seemed to stay away. It was as if my misfortune was contagious, and everyone wanted to keep their distance. My phone, once buzzing with messages, was now silent. I was alone, broke, and completely lost. The world felt like a vast, empty place, and I was just a tiny, insignificant speck. I sat on park benches watching life go by, wondering if I would ever find my way again. At that low point, I realized how much my ignorance had cost me. I had been naive, thinking that money would solve all my problems. But now, faced with a mountain of bills and an uncertain future, I knew I had to change. I had wasted a huge opportunity. The luxury home I once dreamed of was now up for sale, a symbol of my failure. The torn lottery ticket was a cruel reminder of the chance I had squandered. The good news? Hitting rock bottom made me want to change. It was a wake-up call, a chance to start over. I looked in the mirror and saw someone who was ready to fight, ready to rebuild. I knew I had to take responsibility and rebuild my life, with my money and my feelings. It was time to learn from my mistakes, to become wiser and stronger. The journey ahead was daunting, but I was determined to make it. When you're desperate, you'll do anything. I swallowed my pride and asked a financial coach for help. She didn't care about my sad story or who was to blame. She was straight to the point, practical, and wanted to fix things. Her first tip? You need a budget. It sounded so easy, but I'd been living like money grew on trees. She helped me see where my money was going, find ways to save, and make a realistic plan. For the first time in years, I felt a little bit of hope. It wasn't just about the money, it was about taking charge of my life. I was done being reckless. I was ready to learn, grow, and make better choices. Making a budget was just the beginning. It was the first step in a long journey towards financial freedom. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of papers, trying to make sense of it all. The numbers were overwhelming, but I knew I had to start somewhere. I had to take control of my finances if I wanted to rebuild my life. I had a huge pile of debt to deal with, credit card bills, student loans, medical expenses. It felt like a mountain I would never be able to climb. Each letter was a reminder of my past mistakes, and the stress was almost unbearable. But I couldn't let it defeat me. I had to face it head on. My coach helped me put all my loans together, get lower interest rates, and make a plan to pay it all back. It wasn't easy. We spent hours going over every detail, making sure nothing was overlooked. The process was tedious, but it was necessary. With a clear plan in place, I felt a glimmer of hope. I could see a path forward, even if it was a long and difficult one. There were times I wanted to quit, to ignore everything. The weight of my financial burdens was crushing, and the thought of giving up was tempting. But I knew that ignoring the problem would only make it worse. I had to keep pushing forward, no matter how hard it got. But I remembered why I started. I had dreams and goals that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to provide a better life for my family, to be able to enjoy the little things without constantly worrying about money. Those thoughts kept me going even on the toughest days. I wanted my life back, and being free with my money was the way to do it. I imagined a future where I could make choices based on what I wanted, not what I could afford. That vision of financial freedom was my guiding light, and it kept me motivated through the darkest times. While I was paying off my debt, I knew I needed to make money. I couldn't rely solely on cutting expenses. I had to increase my income as well. So, I started looking for opportunities to earn extra cash. I explored different side hustles and eventually found something that worked for me. I started small, doing some writing work online. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something I could do in my spare time. Every little bit helped, and I was grateful for the opportunity to contribute to my financial recovery. The extra income made a difference, and it gave me a sense of accomplishment. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Seeing that first payment hit my account was a moment of validation. It proved that my efforts were paying off, and it motivated me to keep going. I knew that if I continued to work hard, I could achieve even more. It taught me the value of hard work, being disciplined, and not giving up. Late nights and early mornings became my new normal, but I didn't mind. I was building something important, something that would change my life for the better. The discipline I developed during this time was invaluable, and it carried over into other areas of my life. Slowly, I was getting out of the mess I had made. Each payment brought me closer to my goal, and I could see the progress I was making. It wasn't just about the money. It was about reclaiming my life and proving to myself that I could overcome any obstacle. The journey was long, but every step was worth it. Look at me now. I'm not a flashy millionaire anymore, but I'm okay with money, and more importantly, I'm happy. I live within my budget, invest carefully, and have different ways of making money. I've learned that real wealth isn't about how much money you have, but how good your life is. It's about having peace of mind, not worrying about money, and being able to do what you love. My journey from rich to poor and back again has been a wild ride. I've made mistakes, had regrets, and learned hard lessons, but it's also been a journey of learning about myself, being strong, and in the end, fixing things. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Understanding money is super important. Don't wait until you have a problem to learn about it. Teach yourself, get advice from people you can trust, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Remember, it's okay to start small. The most important thing is to start. Make a budget, see where your money goes, and make good choices about your money. And please, don't try to get rich quickly. There's no easy way to do it. It takes time, hard work, and discipline, but I promise you it's worth it. Don't let my story scare you, let it help you. Take charge of your money today. Learn from my mistakes, and make your own path to a better financial future. Remember, it's never too late to change your story. Your financial journey starts now. Make it a good one.